Is there anything in this interview other than that?
Which means that as a truck goes past.
Let's talk a little bit about why there's so many trucks driving by right now. Welcome back to another edition of IQ, the show behind the show. I'm Kristen Nielsen, assistant producer of Chronicles. Would you like to introduce yourself and your title?
I'm Tom Fox-Davies. I'm series producer for Chronicles.
And director of the Bellwether episodes.
Yes.
All right, and for those who may not understand the meaning of Bellwether, can you just explain what it means in the context of these episodes?
Yeah, I mean, a bellwether is anything that just tells you, weather-wise, which way the wind is going. So as a bellwether region, people look to this area as a bellwether for which way the political winds are going.
I do believe Erie County is that microcosm of Pennsylvania and the microcosm of the country.
If they win in Erie, they're winning nationally. Clinton won, right, Erie. Clinton won nationally. Jimmy Carter won Erie. Carter won nationally. Ronald Reagan won Erie. Reagan won nationally. Same with Obama.
Let's just talk about where we're sitting here. We're in a beautiful Perry Square in the heart of downtown Erie. What is special about this location and how it works with...
How does it tie in with Bellwether? Yeah. Well, it's right in the middle of Erie, Pennsylvania. The city of Erie is the beating heart of Erie as a region, as a county, and Perry Square kind of marks the center of everything to some degree. We have the mayor's office just there, we have the county executive office just there, the law courts peppering around. It's why we host Celebrate Erie right here. So it seemed like an apt place to come and have this conversation.
For the filming of these episodes, was there any sort of like themes or, lines that...
Politics.
Yeah.
That was a pretty strong theme that ran throughout it. We didn't really want to get into the whole political argument of, what do the Democrats want to do, what do the Republicans want to do. One of the things that was really interesting was universally, every single person that's elected into office here, bar a couple of positions, are all doing it for next to no money. Mm-hmm. So they're doing it out of a degree of compassion and civic duty and desire to see their communities prosper. And they really are doing it in the service of their communities. So that was the theme that kept coming through. And while we didn't really want to get into, Democrats think this, Republicans think that, we did want to acknowledge, we wanted to give the audience a visual cue as to who they were talking to. So throughout the episode, we've got our Democrats sitting on the left-hand side of the screen, Republicans sitting on the right, and there's just a little subtle color play, reds and blues, depending on who we're talking to. But really, it doesn't have a huge amount of influence, their political leaning throughout the course of the episode because of that underlying shared mission of just wanting to serve their neighbors.
And now let's talk a little bit about the Chronicles team.
When the series first started, it was Mike and myself panicking. And yes, by the time we got to the start of filming of Bellwether, team of 12, it was a very, very different experience. So it did make the whole process a lot less stressful, knowing that with so many other people in the room, we had people who were dedicated to just listening and writing down, fascinating one-liners, and just sitting with the material afterwards as well. So that whole course of exploring all of the content that we filmed got to be a really collaborative and shared experience within the team, which while we weren't able to cover everything that I wanted to do in the episode, it did mean that we could cover a lot more ground and a lot of stuff that might have otherwise have been missed in the edit process wasn't.
And what sort of feedback have you gotten?
Yeah, really, really good across the board. Given that obviously we have our Democrats, we have our Republicans, the candidates themselves that generously gave their time to the episodes, they've all said really nice things. And the feedback we've had from the public is just that, there was some really useful information in there for them, and they appreciated what we were doing. I mean, it's not a contentious episode, bar the opening sort of 10 minutes, which we did feel that we had to then put a warning on the beginning of the episode, let people know that there was some content that some viewers might find disturbing.
This program contains images that some viewers may find distressing. Viewer discretion is advised.
In terms of the actual political stuff on the local level, it's nothing contentious. It's just informative and entertaining.
Politics is a form of mass entertainment for better and for worse.
And there were some heavy topics sprinkled in the episode. Was there a conscious effort to try to balance the heavy topics with, a sense of hope?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, with anytime you're dealing with something that is a little bit more emotionally triggering, I think you've always got to give an audience a reprieve in there somewhere, either through some levity or just a nice pause to let the audience digest things. And so, we start by raising the stakes, and then the rest of it is just a lighter conversation. Because again, we're just looking to inspire people to start having these conversations themselves, whether it be at the water cooler or down at the bar. There's a lot that we all need to learn about how the cities and the communities we live in function.
Was there anything like on the political aspect that you learned that surprised you in all this? Because you do pay attention to politics.
Well, I think I hadn't really appreciated just how much work our elected officials are having to put in to be able to execute the function of their office and not get compensated for it. What they have is really a laughable expense account that really doesn't adequately compensate them for what they do, let alone for their actual time. So it gave me a profound level of respect and appreciation for those that are serving those particular offices. Obviously, it's different for our county executive and for our mayor, but for our council members, they do a phenomenal amount of work, purely driven out of civic duty.
And I just thought of, something that kept coming up in our interviews, how it's a challenge for people to even get involved. Like, all these people are very passionate, but they had, the luxury of having the resources to be able to get involved in politics in the first place. Do you think this episode or these episodes are beneficial for anyone who is considering maybe getting more involved in their local politics?
Well, I think definitely one of the things that comes up is we talk about how for a lot of people running for local office or any office usually comes from a point of privilege. But if you watch the episodes and you look at the story of Jasmine Flores or Tyler Titus, or even Andre Horton, these are individuals who saw a need and they created the opportunity for themselves to run for office. I mean, these are people who are working multiple jobs, really sort of had to go out and get the community invested in them. So there are a lot of inherent challenges, but these individuals show that those challenges can be overcome. It's just, without question, it takes a lot of hard work.
It became a little bit evident during the filming of these episodes, but we couldn't ever really get answers or talking points about it. Just, the native Erieites born and raised here, our lack of hope for the future, and then the hope that people who are coming to Erie see for the future. You want to, explore that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, you talk to a lot of people that are born and raised here, and they'll tell you that Erie just sucks. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to be here? There's nothing to do. And I can see how there would be a degree of feeling disenfranchised. It's decades of economic depression. And I'm very fortunate. I think I landed here just at the right time. We're on that pendulum swing. We're seeing a renaissance. There are some very difficult decisions that need to be made, and this is why I think having a greater interest in local politics is so important right now, because these are the people making those decisions at a time that will shape the future of Erie for generations. Well, as someone who is born and raised in Erie, who has in the past stated that you fall somewhat within that camp of feeling a bit disenfranchised, how has listening to these various political figures talk about their hopes for the future, how has that shifted your opinion on how things sit?
I feel like my relationship with my love, or lack thereof, for Erie has been evolving over the last several years, and it's kind of probably what led me to the Chronicles team. So I see the hope, and I want to be part of the change. I'm still skeptical of how great it's going to end up in the end, you know?
I think one of the problems here is that if you look at things at face value, it's not particularly pretty. The sidewalks are all cracked. There's weeds growing through everything because there isn't the money for city beautification. But there is investment being made in all the things that would allow for that to come further down the line. So it's not pretty right now. You know, it's like a mound of clay. You can, if you take a step back slightly and see what's going on behind the scenes, you can see how it's all being molded and you can see the shape starting to form. It's just very messy.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Acceptable. Was there anything that you wish you could have included in the episode that we just weren't able to?
I would like to have explored the media aspect more. You know, there's so much media that gets cycled through talking about things that happen on a federal level. We all know what's happening within the White House and Congress. But as a community, as a local community, we've somewhat been robbed on local media coverage because the local media outlets are consistently having to do more and more with less. They don't have the budgets they used to have. People don't want to pay for the local media and local news in the same way. So as a result, the level of local journalism has diminished, which means that as a community, it's a lot harder to be informed. But without being informed, it's very hard to make decisions on how we vote.
About the locations, with having so many subjects, 18 to be exact, we had to find almost as many locations to film them.
Yeah, we always like to try and interview our people within the confines of their day-to-day environment, but that's not always possible. So we were very, very lucky that the courthouse gave us access to a number of the courtrooms there. And then other entities gave us access to buildings in and around the city of Erie and the county at large, just to try and, you know, put our subjects within the context of their working environment. And we were really lucky. We got access to some phenomenal locations that look really, really pretty. I think one of the other things about doing an episode of this size with so many candidates and having to find so many locations is it gave us an excuse to go and explore buildings that we otherwise might not have explored. And it just further, you know, reinforces my belief there's so much hidden away in this city and within the region of Erie that most people pass by on a daily basis and have no idea that it's just tucked behind a wall. It gives me a lot of hope about Erie's future. There's a lot of stuff that we just need to dust off, brush the cobwebs away. We have all the ingredients here for a really vibrant and prosperous future. It's just over the horizon right now.
Is there anything in this interview that you were expecting me to ask, or you wish I would have asked you?
Well, I think the only thing we haven't covered is where you can watch the episode. Which camera am I on?
All of them.
It's all there, freely available to watch, and you can catch it at WQLNchronicles.com. And the show is going to be re-airing. We typically air on a Thursday night at 8 p.m., which we'll be doing with season 2 and 3 over the next couple of years. And then you can also download the WQLN app straight to your phone, so that if you're on the EMTA or you know, sitting and having a coffee at any of the coffee shops down here or around the area or down in Corrie or wherever you might be, you can drink your coffee and pull it up on your phone or your tablet or your laptop or whatever device you have and enjoy all 3 episodes. Just wait for the bells.
Yes, I figured.
Because the local...
Tell me again why we chose this location. At least we're not getting rained on this time.
There is literally a person just sitting there with their car door open. That is...
blasting their music in this direction.
Well, it's an inner city area. It's a shared space.
Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today in this beautiful Perry Square location.
I like how quiet it's been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been IQ, the show behind the show. Thank you for watching.
Can we go and tune them into WQLN NPR?
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Right.
Now that we're done with the interview, he turned it off.
Yes, he just turned it off.